Alright, today's lesson is plexiglass. Better yet, I have the stepper motor. Okay, and one thing is really hard about stepper motors is finding the collet for it. Okay, so you can see that collet. It goes on the stepper motor, and then you can thread it via whatever thread count you're using. Again, you can't find these collets anywhere unless you shop online, and then it takes like a week or whatever to get it. So better to go to the hardware store and make one yourself, no doubt. But how do I cut it so precisely? Plexiglass is the first lesson. Alright, so I make a lot of this stuff out of plexiglass. It's a very strong media. It looks nice, so it's one of the things that I'm known for. You know, I want to make it look aesthetically cool too. Here I have a table saw with a very thick blade. So the thicker the better. Carbine tip works really well. You don't have to spend a whole lot of money on it. I think that's a $7 blade. So the secret is to make sure that the blade is risen 1/2 the width of the actual media. So in this case, I could put this right up next to this blade and see that it's 1/2 risen high. Alright, so what I'm going to do is cut this piece, and I'll show you how to do it. I'm going to run it past, and then I'm going to cut actually a piece of scrap. I guess not. I'll cut this one. When cutting something so thin, you got to be wary of kickback. Kickback occurs when the thin piece gets all the way cut through and then comes shooting at you at 1,000,000 miles an hour. Hurts like all heck. So don't fall victim to cutback. Just watch how I do this. So there we go, nice clean cut on that. Very clean. Okay, now I gotta cut a piece of this tubing. This tubing you can buy at your local hardware store. Okay, it's just plastic tubing, 1/4 of an inch hole in it. I got lucky and found some with a 1/4 of an inch already hole. Alright, I have to measure that out real quick. I think it's 2 inches, but I'm not quite sure, so hold on. Yes, 2 inches. So I'll set the blade, I'll set the fence. There's 2 inches. And I have to clean off the end of this so it sits flush against the actual fence. Okay, there we go. Now, as I said, this stuff's a little thicker, so I'm just going to raise the blade just a skosh. Technical term. So there we go. We have this nice little piece now. Let's take it into the house and start carving away at it with a drill. Alright, now that I have that cut, what we're going to do is kind of form it up. So, here it is. And that actually goes into about right there. Just to be safe, I'm just going to measure that with a caliber. Yes, right about there. Okay, I'm gonna put that in a vise very carefully. Do not tighten the vise all the way, just snugly. Alright, now I just have to put a couple holes from here to here. So I'll mark those out with an awl. Like so. Okay, so those are the two holes I'm going to be cutting, or drilling, I should say. These are M3s. I use M3s a lot. They're the smallest freaking screw you can buy at an open hardware store. M3. So I got an M3 drill and tap. And there we go. Now, what you want to do is tap out those. You leave it in the vise. You just start tapping. Try to get it straight as possible. It will work its way straight in the hole once it's getting a little further in. And sometimes it's best, you know, you can even take it out of the vise, that way you feel it going in a little bit without it wobbling around. Alright, so there we go. Now just back it out real carefully. You don't want to de-thread it. Okay, the other one I'm going to do by hand because it's just simpler. So whenever I'm threading small parts, I like to try to do most of this stuff by hand. It's kind of an artist thing. You want to push pressure towards it, but not enough to crack the plastic. And there we go. And back it out. Okay, now I use 5 mils on these M3 screws. So these are M3 screws, 5 mil. Just like that. Okay, next you need a 1/4 inch tap. Which is right here, 1/4 inch. And the same little holder fits both 1/4 inch and M3s. Very snug fit. This one I will have to have in the vise, but I leave those 2 screws in there. That way I don't have to get it too tight because the screws will go up against the vise and allow it not to turn. So you want to get this as straight as possible or you'll have wobble in your spindle. You don't want that. You want it to go real slow, by the way. Sometimes oil helps with this, but I don't want to get too much oil in here because then I'll never get the oil back out. So I'll just go real slow. And I won't go all the way to the end of the tap. Don't get greedy. And then we'll back it out. I love that pattern that occurs because of the glass refraction. Look at that. That's pretty sweet. I use 1/4 threads for my stepper motors because the resolution actually holds true to 20 rotations per 1 inch. It's a little easier to calculate for it. And then if you increase the speed, you can do some other stuff, but the math is really easy when you're using 1/4 Okay, so there we go. We have this now threaded for 1/4. This stuff's so cheap you could probably glue it right onto it. If you wanted extra security. And then that goes on there like this. And then you just tighten these down. And I would use an Allen wrench, of course, but other than that, there we go. This is a little bit bent. This is a piece of scrap 1/4, so it is a little bent. That's why it's so short. But other than that, there it is. Enjoy. For extra security, if you don't want to use any kind of glue to glue the rod into place, because don't forget, if the stepper motor goes in the opposite direction, it will unthread itself, right? So in this case, what I did is I tapped it out one more time on the sides. So this would go into place. Then you can tighten this one up. Perfect. So there we go. And I put it at a different angle, that way it doesn't warble if it's at higher speeds. All I do is have to tighten it up with an Allen wrench and it should be good to go. Enjoy.